Tuesday!
Yeah, it's Tuesday again. I'm Alex.
And I'm Amber.
And this is another episode of True Crime and Chill.
Supernatural style.
Okay, so in case you're new around here, which you might be, Amber and I take the first Tuesday of the month to cover a supernatural case.
And a few months ago, one of our followers on our amazing Facebook group suggested we start covering urban legends in every state.
So that's basically what we did. We started with our home state and went from there.
So, heading down the alphabet, last month's legend came from Alabama, which means this month is Alaska.
Alabama and Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, and Connecticut, and more. Okay, I'm done.
And more.
Yes, haven't you ever heard that song?
Yeah, that's how I know all, but I haven't heard the and more. I just know them all in order.
Yeah.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho,
and more, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, and Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, still 30 Sorry. As you can tell, I'm really trying to hype myself up here. I started a new job, so I work constantly now. So I'm not usually as peppy anymore. So I'm really trying to hype myself up. Anyways, I have never actually been to Alaska. My dad, however, used to fish up out of there and stuff. So
that's what my dad used to do. He used to take road trips with his best friend up there.
Oh no, like he used to actually like fish on the big boats and stuff. Like,
oh, he did commercial fishing.
I don't mean like little rinky dink boats and like a little thing. And no, I mean like Bering Sea type crap. I actually have
commercial fishing.
Yeah, I actually have an uncle. Well, I mean, he's not my uncle. He basically is. He's my dad's best friend who fishes out there on a boat right now. So,
yeah, no, he just did like hobby fishing. He and his best friend would drive up to Alaska and then, have a good time. Just a guy's week or whatever.
Yeah, this definitely was not that.
That being said, for those of you who maybe don't know so much about Alaska, let me elaborate just a little bit. Alaska is one of the most recent states to be added to the United States, and it is separated from the mainland by Canada and is very much a rustic place to go. It's considered a frontier, and it's easy to imagine it being similar to the United States in the days of the pioneers. I mean, there are towns you're unable to get to by car. You have to fly in. And that's not to say they don't have big cities or the internet or anything like that.
In some places, they even have darkness 6 months of the year and then sunlight 6 months. See, that's why I couldn't do it. Right. I need to have my nighttime and my daytime.
Yep, they have a solid 3 days of daylight and then a solid 3 days of just night. So
some places it's months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the farther north you go. Yep.
Yeah. Would not want to be stationed in Alaska for the military. My friend's stationed up there right now, and she's a photographer and stuff. So, like, she's like obviously making the most of it. And some of her photos are absolutely amazing. Shout out to Shelby Smith Photography if you're in Alaska and you need pictures done. But like, she's done pictures for me. She does a carnival pictures of me and the kids, which were so cute. But she's making the most of it. And honestly, just by her pictures, I want to go live up there. But then I realize like what it means. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. I like the wildness of it to a point, but it's too cold for me.
No,
anyway.
girl, Fort Drum, New York is worse than Alaska.
Oh, yeah. No. There are some
places
in southern Alaska. Yeah, there are places in southern Alaska that are actually, anyway. That's neither here nor there. But overall, you can imagine that I had a little bit of trouble finding like that one thing that everybody that lives there talks about when I went searching for urban legends of Alaska. And searching through onlyinyourstate.com, I came across a list that had some haunted places. And that is where I learned in Anchorage is a hotel that believes ghosts are more than just stories. And they keep an actual log of the encounters the guests experience during their stay. So today we're discussing the Historic Anchorage Hotel.
It's so nice when a hotel embraces its paranormal experiences rather than denies them.
Yeah, it is. Ghost stories have circulated the hotel for years and are considered to be linked with the death of Anchorage's first chief of police, Jack Sturgus, on February 20th, 1921, a crime that is still unsolved to this day. And in the 1920s, crime was pretty widespread.
And I imagine in a place like Alaska, it was probably like even crazier because, I mean, because like it could like be nothing or it could be a hunting accident.
Right. Well,
quote unquote.
I'm actually going to tell you the story because it's kind of interesting, to be honest with you.
Okay.
In order to reduce crime rates, the new city council of Anchorage established its first police force and appointed Jack Sturgus as its chief of police. And he took office on January 1st, 1921.
So a little over 100 years ago.
Exactly. And the council wanted him to crack down on gambling. So Jack spent the next several weeks patrolling the streets and attempting to decrease the increase of gambling, along with bootleg whiskey and ladies of the night.
So prostitutes.
Right. Good old gambling, drinking, and prostitution.
Well, that's no fun.
Right? Anchorage's first butcher, Oscar Anderson, reported that he passed the 60-year-old police chief on 4th Avenue around 9 p.m. on the evening of February 20th, 1921. The butcher remarked that the chief was heading up E Street. And a few moments later, the chief was dying at the bottom of a flight of stairs behind the Kivig building, which is where the Anchorage drugstore was and is now an alley next to the Historic Anchorage Hotel.
Okay, so could seem like a suicide.
It's possible. However, night watchman John McNutt
off the stairs.
Oh, well,
he yeeted himself off the stairs.
No, he was shot, and we're going to talk about that. Night watchman John McNutt often patrolled the downtown area and also stoked fires for local businesses. And he said that he saw what he thought was a drunken man lying in the snow in an alley off E Street around 9:15 p.m. The watchman called out but heard only groans in return. So instead of investigating himself, the watchman decided to go and inform the chief of police. He turned and walked to a nearby newsstand that the police chief often visited during his rounds. And along the way, the watchman met Mrs. Baxter, who lived in an apartment above the drugstore, and he told her about the drunk man in the snow. Being curious, Mrs. Baxter went to have a look and immediately realized it was her longtime friend, the police chief. She later testified that she bent beside the police chief, and while he drifted in and out of consciousness, he called out her nickname, Ma. She then rushed into a nearby store, Baxter's cigar store, and called for help.
So Ma, as in maybe another lady of the evening? Like, perhaps the one in charge?
I was wondering that myself, but it didn't really say. Just said that she rushed to his side, knelt down, and he called her. He recognized her, which was a big deal. But those who came to the chief's aid after she reported, she called for help, said they noticed his .32 caliber Colt revolver lying near him in the snow. A bullet had entered his woolen shirt at the left pocket, and his coat and vest were thrown open, and he was cold, obviously, because there was snow, and he was in pain. They carried the severely injured man to nearby Richter's Hotel and Bathhouse, and after a quick examination, firefighters rushed the police chief to the hospital in their new hose wagon. As doctors Roaming, Spalding, and Cannon prepared for surgery to try and stop the bleeding from the bullet that apparently lodged near his spine, it's reported that the police chief complained about the bright lights and his hands being cold. But he would not answer any of the questions from U.S. Deputy Marshals Clarence Mossman and Frank Hoffman as to the identification of his assailant. Jack died at 10:50 p.m. with, and I quote, his lips sealed and a mystery remaining to be unraveled by the long arm of the law, end quote. During the official investigation, people said they either, quote, saw the flash of a gun or, quote, heard the report of a gun the night of the shooting. But no one apparently saw any suspicious characters.
Okay, so 2 things. One, everybody in Anchorage seems like they were pretty suspicious. And 2, maybe he didn't know who the person was that killed him. That's why he wasn't saying anything.
It's possible. There's a couple of ideas that we're going to get into here in a second. The bullet was taken from his body during the autopsy, and it matched the gun found at the scene, which was his gun. The coroner's inquest, conducted by George Leopold David on February 23rd, concluded that he was murdered by an unknown person. And people theorized about the reason for the murder. Some suggested the chief was killed while endeavoring to make an arrest or watching in the rear of the drugstore for some man under suspicion. Others suggested that he had been murdered by some booze runners in response to his crackdown. Although the city offered a reward of $1,000 for information about the chief's death, and council members pledged another $950, the murder was never and has never been solved.
So basically another botched investigation.
Kind of. More like, didn't think it suspicious, which also says something. Concerning the hotel itself, there are also stories of a woman who hanged herself in the hotel on the 2nd or 3rd floor, and a little boy who drowned in the bathtub in room 304. Paranormal activity seems to include footsteps, disembodied voices, and whistling. Chess pieces from the lobby end up in other areas of the hotel. Unexplained knocks, doors opening on their own and stopping when being asked to, and even a door that wouldn't open when a staff member tried and then it shook violently on its own. And those are stories from guests and from also hotel staff.
So what? Like, it's just an accumulation. So, I mean, has there been any other, like, murders at this hotel, or?
Well, depending on how into the paranormal aspect you want to get, I did watch a video, and it was from Ghost Questers on YouTube. They are it's not a newer channel. They've been around for a couple years, but their very first episode they did at this hotel. And they did the spirit box, where it goes through the multiple radio stations and creates white noise. And they got some interesting answers. One of the questions they asked was how many ghosts are here, and they answered 17. Right. And but there was a woman's voice who was heard across multiple areas of the hotel. They did catch a disembodied voice on camera. They also did catch that whistling noise. They caught it a couple times in the bar in a camera that was left there, and just really random, like, knocking noises that didn't make a whole lot of sense. They did capture a lot of what they thought could be orbs, but they did very much leave it to the viewers to decide for themselves if it was dust or orbs.
Yeah.
But they are not the only ones who did an investigation there. There was also a team from the Travel Channel. It wasn't like Ghost Adventures or anything like that, but it was a team from the Travel Channel who came in and did an investigation, and they were even featured on MSNBC for their paranormal stuff. And they're also featured on brides.com. They're in the 50... They're actually number 1, but I think it's because it's Alaska at the beginning of the alphabet. Featured on the 50 most haunted places to get married.
Yeah, nothing like a ghost just totally crashing your wedding.
Right. Well, they also feature places like the Queen Mary, that sort of thing.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started on the Queen Mary. Arizona is up next for our next week's one.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona is like haunted, isn't it? Like, it's got all that haunted. I feel like Arizona and Alaska are like 2 of the most haunted places that aren't located in the South.
I don't know about that, because I'm actually excited to get to a few places down the line, but I do have a few friends that live in Arizona, so I figured I'd ask around for some local ideas of legends for that one. Anyway, but back to the Historic Anchorage Hotel. I feel like the fact that they actually keep a log of the guests' experiences there is a really big deal.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There is a hotel here, and it involved with the Lady of the Lake that we discussed with Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who have reports of ghost stories from there, and the hotel chain refuses. Like, if somebody puts a comment up on Yelp or something that talks about it, they will have it taken down because they don't want them to be known for this. Meanwhile, this hotel actually has a bit about it on their website. They don't go really overly into it, but they don't shy away from the fact that they have ghosts. So I think that if you were ever a skeptical person about ghosts and you wanted to go someplace where you might have experiences that you don't have to necessarily break into, this might be a really good place for you to go.
And I'm looking at it, like, I'm looking at a picture of it, and it's really funny because there's, like, this giant bear.
Yeah. Right,
on
out
top,
front.
and then you got the Hilton in the back. So, like, when you first described it, I was thinking, "Oh, okay, it's out in, like, the middle of nowhere."
No, it's this really nice place. Like, it's got this nice bar, and they've got, but even, like, listening, there's every staff member there has stories. And they're not like like, oh yeah, this one time. It's like, oh yeah, even just last night this happened. Like, it's not like and from what I've gathered from watching the paranormal investigations, they're more just like mischievous and friendly type. They're not like angry and out to cause issues. They like messing with people. And so, like I said, there was one staff member who said, she was in her office and she got closing her door, and the door kept opening on its own. And finally, she's like, "Would you just stop, please?" And it stopped. So,
would you just stop, please?
Yeah.
Like,
right. But then there's also times when they realize that, okay, whatever's going on just wants to be left alone right now. So they just kind of walk away.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I work in a prison that is extremely haunted. I can already tell you right now, it's extremely haunted.
I'm sure it is.
And there have been reports of, like, guards being like, "Hey, knock it off."
Yeah.
And things just stop because it's like, okay, well.
Yeah. Well, and so it really comes down to, because again, depending on how into the paranormal you are, which if you've gotten this far, chances are you're pretty into it.
Right.
You have a couple different versions of ghosts, really. Like, you have the residual energy, and then you have a somewhat of a conscious energy. And most of the ghosts at this place seem to be more of a conscious energy. Although there is some residual stuff. There's apparently scent of perfume that occasionally happens. Although it's a hotel, so, and then also a woman, a figure of a woman has been seen on occasion. Not often. Oh, and then the little boy has been said to be seen in the room where he supposedly drowned. Like, people will wake up and he'll be like sitting on the bed, like popping bubble gum or turning the light off and on, just being a kid. So
yeah,
I'm gonna guess that he wasn't ready to go when he went, so he just has fun with guests now.
I'm gonna screw with you.
Well, if I was a kid, I'd be like, I'm not ready to go, but I want to mess with people because now I can.
Right.
And I mean, when you consider a little boy, anytime, they're just mischievous. So, yeah. Gosh, this is already going to be really, really short. I hate making it this short, but that's just how it is.
I mean, it's fine. We'll make up for it next week because I'm pretty sure that the one I'm going to be doing is going to go a little bit over an hour. So,
okay.
We'll just make up for it next week.
All right. That sounds good. The Historical Anchorage Hotel is a rare gem in the wild wilderness of Alaska that embraces their paranormal guests that never check out. Ghost hunters, both independent and professional, have created videos that we will have shared on our webpage, truecrimeandchill.com. And if you're ever in the area, don't miss a chance to stop by and find out for yourself.
Thank you for listening to True Crime and Chill. For more information, including case notes, photos, and sources, please visit our website at truecrimeandchill.com. You can also stay connected with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Look for new episodes from us each week on Tuesday.